Today I'm going to be talking about hyphens. But for context, I'm first going to talk about hyphens versus dashes. Hyphens are shorter than either of the dashes, the two dashes being N dash and M dash. You can kind of have it as a cheat sheet in your mind that an N dash, it's the width of an N, capital N, and then an M dash is the width of a capital M. So an M dash is longer than an N dash, and an N dash is longer than a hyphen. For a hyphen, it's important to use this correctly because 5-minute break would be a break that's 5 minutes. Versus if you didn't use it, 5-minute breaks would be 5 inferred 1-minute breaks. Still the same thing, but if read that way in another kind of number or something else, more words, it can get a little bit confusing. Then for context, an N dash is usually used for dates and times. To use this in Word, you would have to use a special character, but if you didn't want to do that, you could just use a dash, but you'd have to put spaces on either side. Usually you don't do this, but this is just to denote that a dash is really being used as an N dash. Good if you're writing a paper and you have a professor who's a real stickler. And like I was saying there, 7 to 10 usually is a good indicator that you would use an N dash, or the event is from 7 and 10 p.m. There you go. Another good way to know if you're supposed to use it or not is what you naturally might refer to with the word instead of a hyphen or a dash. Then for the M dash, you would use this to break off information that you really want to emphasize, or if you're a creative writer, you would use it for dramatic flair. In my example here, the professor, whose, I'm highlighting what it's referencing, positionally noun or object or subject. So the professor, who's always prepared, forgot his slides. So this is dramatic because the professor is always prepared, but now he forgot his slides. And then that little asterisk there is just saying, usually you don't want to put a space or before and after. If you do that on a hyphen or a dash, it's incorrect. Except, like I said, with the N dash, if you're using a dash and don't want to find the special character. For hyphen, use a hyphen to connect two or more words functioning together as an adjective before a noun. So an example would be, this is record-breaking weather. Record-breaking would have a hyphen, but you wouldn't use it if it was, this weather is record-breaking. The noun, weather, is now before the adjective, so there wouldn't be any reason to use a hyphen. It would be incorrect. Then you have 3-word adjectives, such as, he is a 50-year-old man, man being the noun, and 50-year-old being the adjective. And then, I'll break this rule a few times, but you don't pause when saying the hyphen, it is one unit. I do this just to emphasize. Don't do it yourself. Hyphen, and when not to use it. Generally, don't use a hyphen when such compounds follow the noun. Generally, don't use a hyphen when such compounds follow the noun. After this campaign, you will be well known. This, you wouldn't use a hyphen because well known becomes after the noun you. So it would be, before the campaign, you were not a well-known person. Now, person is a noun, so you'd use the adjective well-known and you would give it a hyphen. Don't use a hyphen to connect ly adverbs to the words they modify. So you wouldn't be like, my hamster is slowly hyphen moving on the floor. It would just be slowly moving, no hyphen. Versus if you did need to use a hyphen or wanted to, you could just change it to, my hamster is slow moving on the floor. Now, that is correct. Hyphen in a series, hyphens are suspended or hanging when they're in a series. This is great if you're writing something, especially in a college level. Did you come here with the first hyphen, second hyphen, or third hyphenated class plane tickets? So you would have whatever the prefix or suffix depending, before you have the full prefix and suffix together. So basically, first, second, or third class, you would have it where it breaks off from class. Hyphen, fractions, and compound numbers. Hyphenate the written forms of fractions and of compound numbers from 21 to 99, with the exceptions being 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and 90, as they're just one word together. No two words there. Fractions would be an example, 1/4, 2/10, 6/4, and then compound numbers would be an example of 42, 28, and 39. Where hyphens won't work, obviously, like I was saying, before 21, 19, 16, and 12, all the others, they just won't work because it's already one word. Note, don't hyphenate fractions used as nouns. 1/10 are registered voters. And then you would use it for something where it's used as a descriptor or an adjective. My gas tank is 2/3 full. A way that I found that might be easy to figure this out if it's a noun or a descriptor would be replacing that word with what. So, my gas tank is what? 2/3 full. What would indicate that it's a descriptor? But if I did registered voters are what? 1/10 wouldn't work. Registered voters are 1/10 does not work. But 1/10 are what? Registered voters. So then you would know that 1/10 is a noun and not a descriptor. At least in that case, and you can use it for any others you may suspect are nouns instead of descriptors. Then for hyphenating prefixes and suffixes, use a hyphen with the prefixes all, ex, self, pro. Of course, there's more, and there's some, things aren't going to work out, like exceptional. It's one word, don't hyphenate it. Our charity funds, self, hyphen, help, projects. And then sometimes you'll find some style guides on writing where it says that X would be lowercase. This is especially important when it's used for title. That's when you usually see it, but I'll get to that later. Use a hyphen with the suffix elect. So an example would be, this is our president, suffix elect. So it works for both prefixes and suffixes. And then for capitalization with hyphenation, all parts of a person's title are capitalized except for prepositions and articles. And this is what I was talking about. Like you see here, don't capitalize prefix X as in ex-president. There's a reason for that, and that's because of levels of importance or equality with importance. So, as you can see, you would use secretary, treasurer, both equal, they're both titles, they're both very important positions. Commander-in-chief, in would be lowercase because it's just an article. Think about how you would do title case. And then general rule of hyphenation is to always capitalize the first half and capitalize the second half of a compound if it is a noun or equal in importance to the first half. Like I was saying, president is way more important than just elect. Secretary and general are pretty high up titles, so they're equal. This, of course, just look at your company style guide or ask a teacher or professor, what their preference is. Hyphenation with ambiguity. So a hyphen is used in some words to avoid ambiguity or to separate awkward double or triple letters. So think about it like this. Recreation versus recreation. Recreation is the act or activity of doing something for leisure or enjoyment. Recreation is to create again or create something that has been made or done in the same way as something that has happened or existed in the past. Examples of hyphen changing meanings. Biking in the park is my favorite recreational activity. The film was a recreation of a historical event. Examples of what I was talking about with separating double or triple letters would be like anti-intellectual. You would, if you didn't have a hyphen, it would be two I's together, and then if you did cross stitch, it would be a triple letter together with the S's. An example of how this might be relevant for you, I resent this draft versus I resent this draft, with resent being I hate or despise something, and resent being I sent it again. So if you're writing to a professor, they might feel like you really hate the draft you sent them, or you messed up a detail and oops, sorry, here's another copy of it that has it fixed. So be careful. With hyphenation and division, if a word must be divided at the end of a line, divide it correctly. The best way to divide a word is between syllables, but never divide a one-syllable word. An example would be recognize. Recognize. When I finished shaving, I didn't nize my face in the mirror. It splits at recog and nize. So when I finished shaving, I didn't recognize my face in the mirror. That would be correct. Then strength is a one-syllable word. So the students didn't have the strength to write the email. That'd be wrong. You would have to keep it on one line. So if you're writing a paper or an essay or something as a student or in business, you would have to either hit enter or somehow reformat your document to have the word be on the correct line. Usually something like Word would just break that off automatically. But if you're writing an email, it may not work that way. So be sure to hit enter if it's a one-syllable word, or just break it off where the two syllables meet. And then, once again for division, never divide a word so that a single letter stands alone at the end of a line, or fewer than 3 words begin a line is a pretty golden rule. Don't divide one-syllable words, and if you have the choice, divide somewhere in the middle if the word has multiple syllables. So if it has like 3 syllables, try to go, you can go left or right, go for whatever has more words that kind of split more down the middle. Some would have like 2 letters, some have 3 letters that break away, so we'll go an example. So something like an example of something that was wrong, she will have to bring her notebook again? No. Just break it to the next line. When dividing a compound at the end of a line, either make the break between the words that form the compound or between syllables, or put the whole word on the next line. So just like this, an example would be, my distance always makes long hyphen distance calls at home. Just break it at long and then have distance go on to the next line, just like how I have in my example here. My cousin always makes long distant calls at home. Then for internet links, this is especially important if were like a college student like me, where you have your citations. You wouldn't want to put a dash because like you might see sometimes some internet links will have hyphenation within their naming or within their unique HTML code or whatever. So you wouldn't put a hyphen, you just break it on the next line, and you can infer that it's one address together once it hits the period at the end. The only exception for hyphenation is when you divide a long internet address at the end of the line. Do not use a hyphen. If the address is mentioned in the text of your paper, break it after the slash mark or period. So golden rules, break at the slash mark or period. And then just for, depending on where you're from, for American English, you divide the word between syllables, democracy. But if you're in the UK and using British English, then you would divide the word based on the family tree, not from sound. So demos being people, and kratia being power, so you would break it democracy. But to sum it up, hyphens are used to break up words between lines, separate parts of compound words, write fractions or certain numbers, and create one description from 2 words. And thank you. Be sure to follow for more writing tips and information about how to really spruce up your paper.